You can't have real love without emotional ownership. Too many people believe that love should just work if it's meant to be. That if we find the right person, everything will fall into place. But that's a myth. Love doesn't just happen to us. It's something we build moment by moment, choice by choice. And the foundation of that love isn't chemistry or compatibility, it's emotional ownership. Emotional ownership means taking full responsibility for what we bring into the relationship. Our mindset, our mood, our patterns, our triggers. It's the discipline of recognizing this is mine. I own this emotion. I won't deny it, dump it, or demand someone else fix it. That's not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in love. But it's also the most liberating. Love is a responsibility, not a reward. This simple truth challenges one of the most common misconceptions we carry, that love is something we earn, something that is given to us if we are good enough, attractive enough, or successful enough. But real love isn't a trophy at the end of some performance. It's not something we get for checking the right boxes. Real love is a daily commitment to show up, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. When we treat love like a reward, we create conditions around it. We fall into the trap of thinking, if you love me, you'll never hurt me. Or if I do everything right, they won't leave. But those expectations aren't based on love, they're rooted in fear. Love that's given conditionally is not love. It's control dressed up as connection. True love, the kind that lasts and transforms, is grounded in responsibility. They ask, who am I choosing to be in this relationship? How am I taking ownership of my actions, my words, and my impact on the person I care about? Responsibility in love means that you understand your presence in someone's life has weight. What you say matters. What you do matters. How you show up emotionally matters. It's not about being perfect. It's about being accountable. If you say something hurtful, responsibility means you apologize without being defensive. If you break a promise, you own it without deflecting blame. Take responsibility for your emotions without making your partner pay the price for what you haven't yet processed. In a mature relationship, love doesn't ask, what can I get? It asks, what can I give without losing myself? And this is important because responsibility in love doesn't mean self-sacrifice. It doesn't mean abandoning your needs or carrying the relationship alone. It means showing up with integrity. It means choosing patience when it's easier to react. It means being honest even when silence would be more comfortable. It means doing the inner work to be a partner who doesn't just expect love, but contributes to it. People often walk away from love not because they don't care, but because they never learned how to take responsibility for it. They were looking for someone to fix them or complete them, instead of understanding that love starts with how you treat yourself and how you treat others in return. If you treat love like a transaction, it will always feel like it's running out. If you treat it like a responsibility, it will grow, even in the hard seasons. There will be moments in any relationship when you don't feel like loving, when you're tired, frustrated, or uncertain. But responsibility kicks in when feelings fall short. It's the quiet decision to stay curious instead of critical, to listen instead of shut down, to try again instead of walk away. Love becomes real, not in the high moments, but in those hard choices. And responsibility is what makes those choices possible. So the next time you think about love, don't ask yourself what you deserve. Ask yourself what you're willing to invest. Are you willing to take responsibility for your emotional footprint, for how you communicate, how you listen, how you support, and how you grow alongside someone else? Because when you see love not as something you're owed, but something you are trusted with, everything changes. Love stops being a prize to win and becomes a purpose to live by. And that's where real love begins. You're accountable for the energy you bring. Whether we realize it or not, we carry an emotional presence into every interaction. And in relationships, that presence shapes the connection far more than our words. We can say we love someone, but if the energy we bring is cold, distant, reactive, or defensive, love won't feel like love. People may not always remember exactly what we said, but they will always remember how we made them feel. The feeling supportive or stressful, open or closed, is the result of the energy we carry into the relationship. Being accountable for our energy doesn't mean we have to be perfect or positive all the time. It means we have to be self-aware. It means we pause before walking into a room already in a bad mood and ask ourselves, am I bringing this frustration in here, or am I choosing to leave it where it belongs? Emotional accountability is the ability to recognize that how we feel inside influences how we treat others, and that we have a choice in how we respond, even if we can't control how we feel. Many people move through relationships passively, letting their emotions take over without taking time to reflect. They lash out, shut down, or demand things out of insecurity, then justify it by saying, "That's just how I felt." But feeling something doesn't mean it's someone else's responsibility to deal with. Our feelings are valid, but they're still ours. The way we express them, especially in love, determines whether we create safety or distance, connection or conflict. When you bring consistent emotional chaos into a relationship, even if you care deeply, the relationship will start to feel unsafe. Over time, your partner begins to walk on eggshells, not because they don't love you, but because they don't know which version of you they'll get that day. That instability erodes trust. And trust is the foundation of real intimacy. Energy is not just a vibe, it's a signal. It tells people whether they can feel seen, supported, or simply survive around you. Taking responsibility for your energy means doing the work behind the scenes. It means reflecting on your triggers, learning your patterns, and not making your partner your emotional punching bag. It means showing up with intention, not just reacting, but responding. Sometimes it means saying, "I'm in a tough place today. I need some time to clear my head so I don't take it out on you." That level of self-awareness builds emotional safety and earns respect. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you responsible. This kind of accountability also creates room for repair. When you mess up, and you will, being aware of your energy allows you to say, "I didn't show up the way I wanted to, I'm sorry, here's what I'll do differently." That is how emotional intimacy is built, not through perfection, but through ownership. In love, it's easy to fall into the trap of expecting someone else to fix our bad moods or validate us when we're struggling, but true partnership means recognizing that your energy is not someone else's job to manage, it's yours. And when you manage it well, you create space for two people to grow, not just react. Every time you enter a conversation, a disagreement, or even a quiet moment with someone you care about, you're bringing more than your words. You're bringing your emotional presence. And that presence either invites connection or closes the door to it. You don't have to be emotionally perfect, but you do have to be emotionally responsible. That's what it means to love with maturity. That's what it means to show up, not just with affection, but with intention. And that's what makes love feel safe, real, and lasting. Blame destroys intimacy, while ownership builds it. In every relationship, there will be misunderstandings, mistakes, and moments of emotional tension. These are inevitable. But what determines the strength and depth of the relationship isn't how often conflict arises, it's how the people involved handle it. When we default to blame, we create distance, we make the other person the enemy. But when we choose ownership, we build trust. We say, "We're on the same team, and I'm willing to look at my part." Blame's defense mechanism. It often shows up when we feel hurt, misunderstood, or out of control. It gives us a temporary sense of power. Pointing the finger takes the pressure off us. But while it might protect our ego in the short term, it slowly poisons the emotional bond. It turns conflict into a contest. Instead of resolving the issue, we start trying to win the argument, prove a point, or shame the other person into submission. And even if we win, we lose something much more valuable: connection. Relationships thrive on safety, and blame makes safety impossible. When someone constantly feels like they're under emotional attack, they stop being vulnerable, they stop sharing, they start walking on eggshells, they guard their feelings, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. And when vulnerability disappears, so does intimacy. Because intimacy isn't built through perfection, it's built through openness. It's the willingness to say, "I don't have it all figured out, but I'm here with you anyway." That's where ownership comes in. Ownership is the opposite of blame. It says, "I'm willing to look at my role in this." It doesn't mean taking on everything or excusing bad behavior. It means being honest with yourself. Did I communicate clearly? Did I bring unresolved emotions into this moment? Did I respond out of fear, anger, or pride? These questions don't make you weak. They make you emotionally intelligent. They show your partner that your goal isn't just to be right, but to be real. When both people in a relationship take ownership, something powerful happens. Conflict becomes a doorway to deeper connection. Instead of defending positions, you start exploring experiences. You listen, not to attack, but to understand. And through that understanding, trust grows. Because trust isn't built in grand romantic gestures. It's built in the daily choice to own your actions, repair your missteps, and keep showing up. It's also important to understand that ownership creates a culture of emotional maturity. It sets a tone. When you take responsibility for your energy, your words, and your behavior, you invite your partner to do the same. You model self-awareness. You make it safe for them to say, I was wrong too. And in that space, love becomes more than just a feeling. It becomes a shared responsibility. Of course, ownership requires courage. It's much easier to say, this is your fault, than to ask, what could I have done differently? But blame is reactive. Ownership is intentional. And relationships that are intentional have a much better chance of thriving over time. They can handle the hard conversations because both people are willing to grow through them, not run from them. So when tension arises, and it will, pause. Ask yourself, am I blaming or am I owning? That one decision can change everything. Because blame may feel satisfying in the moment, but ownership is what builds something that lasts. Love can survive mistakes. It can survive misunderstandings. What it can't survive is constant deflection. If you want real connection, choose responsibility. Choose presence. Choose the strength it takes to say, here's my part. Let's grow together. That's the heart of intimacy. That's where love gets real. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's ownership in action. In relationships, one of the most misunderstood concepts is vulnerability. We're often taught to associate it with being fragile, exposed, or overly emotional, something to avoid if we want to appear strong or stay in control. But in truth, vulnerability is one of the most courageous things we can offer another person. It's not about losing power. It's about standing in our truth without pretending, performing, or protecting ourselves with pride. And when you're vulnerable, you're not asking someone else to rescue you. You're not dumping emotions onto them and expecting them to carry the weight of your healing. Instead, you're saying, this is what I feel. This is where I'm struggling. I know it's mine, but I want to let you in. That's ownership. It's recognizing that your feelings belong to you, but your relationship can be a safe space to share them. Not to fix, but to be seen, heard, and held without judgment. We live in a culture that often confuses independence with isolation. We're told not to need anyone, not to show too much emotion, to always look like we have it together. But real relationships don't thrive on appearance. They thrive on authenticity. And authenticity requires vulnerability. If you're always hiding behind a wall of strength, you may protect yourself from rejection, but you also block intimacy. Because intimacy isn't built on perfection, it's built on presence. You can't deeply connect with someone if they only ever meet your mask. Vulnerability is how we bridge that gap. It's how we let people love the real version of us, not the curated one. And yes, there's risk involved. When you open up, there's a chance you won't be fully understood. There's a chance someone might not respond the way you hoped. But the greater risk is never letting yourself be fully known. Because if someone doesn't know your truth, they can't truly love you. They can only love the version you perform for them. Owning your vulnerability also means resisting the urge to use it as manipulation. It's not about saying, look how much I'm hurting, now you owe me something. It's not a tool for guilt or attention. It's a sincere, grounded way of communicating what's real for you. And when done with clarity and intention, it creates emotional safety. It signals to your partner that you trust them enough to bring your full self forward. And in turn, it invites them to do the same. There's nothing weak about saying, I'm scared of losing this, or I need reassurance right now. There's nothing fragile about admitting, I'm still working through this past hurt, and I don't want to project it onto us. Those are statements of emotional ownership. They show that you're not waiting for your partner to read your mind or fix your pain. You're showing up with self-awareness, asking to be met in your truth. And it takes far more strength to be honest about your feelings than it does to hide behind anger, sarcasm, or silence. Anyone can build a wall. It takes emotional maturity to take that wall down and risk being seen. And the reward is worth it. Vulnerability is where closeness is born. It's where trust is deepened. It's where two people move from coexisting to truly connecting. So if you want a love that's real, stop trying to be invincible. Let yourself be human. Share the messy parts, the honest fears, the quiet hopes. Don't wait until everything is resolved to open up. Vulnerability is not what comes after healing. It's often what leads us there. It's not a sign of weakness. It's the evidence of ownership. It's the doorway to real love. Love requires emotional discipline. It's not enough to just feel strongly about someone. It's not enough to be swept away by passion or connection. Real love, the kind that endures, evolves, and deepens, demands that we manage our emotions with care, presence, and responsibility. It means not just reacting to how we feel in the moment, but responding in ways that align with our values and with the kind of relationship we want to build. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing how you feel. It's not about pretending to be calm when you're really upset or pushing your needs aside to keep the peace. Instead, it's about learning how to sit with your emotions, understand them, and express them in a way that doesn't harm the connection you're trying to protect. It's choosing to pause before you speak, to breathe before you react, and to think before you respond. That pause is powerful. It can mean the difference between a conversation that builds trust and one that breaks it. In relationships, emotional discipline shows up in the little moments. It's deciding not to snap when you're tired. It's holding space for your partner's perspective even when you feel misunderstood. It's choosing not to retaliate when you're hurt, but instead to communicate with honesty and care. Love isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about handling conflict with maturity. And that maturity is born from discipline. Many relationships fall apart not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of emotional control. It's easy to say things in the heat of the moment that leave lasting scars. It's easy to let insecurity lead to accusations or let fear turn into silence. But emotional discipline is what keeps love from being damaged by temporary emotions. It's what allows you to step back and ask what's really going on here, rather than being ruled by impulse or ego. Being emotionally disciplined doesn't mean you never break down. It doesn't mean you're always calm or composed. It means that when you do feel overwhelmed, you own it. You say, I'm not in a good place right now, and I don't want to take it out on you. That level of self-awareness and honesty builds trust. It tells your partner that you're someone who takes responsibility for your emotional impact. But it also means being consistent in your love, not just when things are easy, but when they're difficult. Love isn't measured by how affectionate you are when everything is good. It's measured by how steady and respectful you remain when things are hard. Can you stay present in discomfort? Can you stay committed in conflict? That's where emotional discipline matters most. It also protects the relationship from becoming a battleground of unmanaged feelings. When two people commit to showing up with emotional responsibility, they create a space where safety and honesty can thrive. It doesn't mean there's never tension. It means there's always a path forward through it. Discipline allows you to say, I care more about us than being right. I'm willing to slow down, to listen, to find the truth beneath the reaction. Love, at its core, is a choice. It's a decision you make every day to show up with intention, even when emotions are running high. Emotional discipline is what turns that choice into action. It's the quiet strength behind lasting relationships. It's the inner voice that says, feel everything but act with wisdom. Because love without discipline is just emotion. But love with discipline becomes devotion. Steady, real, and built to last. You can't expect someone to meet needs you haven't owned. In relationships, one of the most common sources of frustration is unmet needs. We feel disappointed, let down, or even abandoned when our partner doesn't show up in the way we hoped. But often, the issue isn't that the other person failed us, it's that we never clearly expressed what we needed in the first place. And deeper than that, we may not have fully acknowledged or owned those needs ourselves. Owning your needs means getting honest about what matters to you emotionally, mentally, and even physically. It's the process of turning inward and asking, what do I need to feel secure, to feel valued, to feel loved? Many of us carry needs that are buried under shame or fear. We were taught that needing too much makes us weak, too sensitive, or a burden. So instead of owning our needs, we downplay them. We hint, we wait for someone to notice, we get upset when they don't, and then we wonder why we feel unseen or unheard. But no one can meet a need that you haven't taken responsibility for. People aren't mind readers. Even the most loving partner can't guess what you won't admit to yourself. Owning your needs doesn't mean demanding them. It doesn't mean saying, you must do this or else. It means acknowledging that your needs are real, valid, and worthy of communication. It means standing in your truth and saying, this is something I care about. This is something I need to feel connected to you. It also means releasing the idea that needing something from someone else makes you dependent or broken. We are relational beings. We're wired to need support, affection, consistency, and understanding. Those needs aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of being human. And the problem isn't having needs. The problem is pretending not to have them while expecting others to meet them anyway. When you own your needs, you give your partner a chance to show up for you. You give them clarity. You invite collaboration. But when you don't, you set them up to fail. You end up resenting them for not doing something they didn't know they were supposed to do. That resentment builds walls, it creates tension, and eventually the relationship starts to feel like a place of silent frustration rather than mutual growth. On the other hand, when you approach your partner and say, "This is what I've realized I need and I want to share it with you," you create a space for deeper intimacy. You make the relationship a place where truth is welcome. And yes, not every need will be met exactly how you envision it, but even just speaking it aloud can shift the energy. It creates understanding, which often leads to compromise, support, and a greater sense of connection. Owning your needs also protects you from emotional manipulation. When you're clear on what you need and why, you're less likely to settle for crumbs. You're less likely to twist yourself into someone you're not just to earn attention or approval. You stop seeking validation in unclear ways and start building relationships rooted in mutual respect and honesty. At the heart of it, love requires courage, not just the courage to give, but the courage to be real. And being real means taking full ownership of what you feel, what you value, and what you need to thrive in a relationship. It's not about controlling the other person. It's about showing up as your whole self and inviting them to do the same. You can't hold someone accountable for a need you've hidden. You can't grow a relationship on silent expectations. But when you take responsibility for what you need and express it with clarity and care, you create a foundation where love doesn't have to guess. It just gets to grow.